Hello everybody and welcome to a new series on the channel called Idiot's Weapon Reviews. In this series I'm going to be giving you, the viewer, my personal review on every weapon a class has to entail. I'll be starting off the series with everybody's favourite class, the Scout, and then working my way down the class lineup, ending the series off with Spy. And as I don't want to keep you waiting any longer, let's get straight into it, starting off with the stock scattergun. The scattergun is Scout stock primary with no upsides or downsides. It has a base damage of 60 and a maximum damage of 104, that being a meat shot. It has a clip size of 6 and a reserve of 32, which I would say is a considerable amount of ammo for a shotgun. Now, even though this is the bare bones of Scout's primaries, it is still an amazing weapon. It's great at dealing sustained burst damage, and anytime I use it, I just have a great time, especially when landing the aforementioned meat shots. And overall, this weapon is really fun, and in my opinion, I don't think it gets overshadowed by any of the unlocks. In fact, I would say it's better than a few of Scout's unlocks, but we'll be getting into that unlock a little bit later in the video. The Force of Nature is a weapon that sounds great on paper. With you only having 2 shots in the chamber and a 10% damage penalty, you get the trade-off of firing more pellets per shot, a faster reload speed, and the main draw of this weapon being its knockback. But in practice, this gun isn't the best. With you only having 2 shots in the chamber, you lose a lot of the consistent damage provided by stock, especially since the knockback will make it so that your second shot will deal less damage due to damage drop-off, which is why most people will use the knockback for the extra mobility it provides, especially since the height you gain from this weapon opens up maps in so many fun and different ways. Now, me personally, I love using this weapon for its knockback, specifically for the mobility, and also playing on maps such as Upward and Sawmill, because getting those environmental kills with this weapon is really funny to do. And this right here is why I like this weapon so much. I cannot emphasize how much fun I have had using this weapon, and just in general how much fun I've had playing Scout for this video. Having the ability to knock people off of cliffs and watch them fall to their impending doom is quite possibly one of the funniest things you can do in Team Fortress 2, and this weapon does that pretty well, which is probably why I have enjoyed using this weapon so much. So in conclusion, the Force of Nature, in my opinion, is just a fun gun to use and have a good laugh with, and that's really is all there is to it from what my experience was. Anyway, I think it's about time we move on to the next gun in this video, the Soda Popper. The Soda Popper, I'd say, is the Force of Nature's fraternal twin. I bet none of you know what that means, but that's okay, neither did I until I searched it up 2 seconds ago. This weapon's main gimmick comes in the form of the hype meter, which grants Scout 5 additional jumps upon activation. You can charge the hype meter by dealing damage, which makes the bleed weapons pair really well with this weapon. Now, me personally, I had a lot of fun with this weapon due to the extra mobility provided from the 5 extra jumps, especially when I would pair it with the Winger. The only thing that disappointed me was the fact that the Atomizer's jumps don't stack with this weapon. But other than that, it's a fun weapon, and I'm a big fan of the hype meter, since Scout's strongest aspect, in my opinion, is probably his double jump. So giving him 5 more as a reward of dishing out a set amount of damage is a really fun gimmick and a pretty good reward. Now, the shortstop, in my opinion, is a relatively underwhelming weapon. It comes with the upside of a clip-based reload, faster firing speed, and 100% damage increase per pellet. But with all that comes the downsides of 60% fewer pellets per shot and a smaller clip size. You also have a 20% knockback vulnerability whilst deployed, meaning air blast and rocket launchers will send you further than they normally would. This gun also lets Scout shove people, which confuses me because why would you want to push people out of your maximum damage radius? But in all fairness, the shove barely moves the enemy, making it essentially useless. But with all that being said, this gun is still fun to use, with its decreased bullet spread opening Scout up to a somewhat viable medium range attacker, but other than that, it's quite underwhelming. Now, even though the shortstop, in my opinion, is quite underwhelming, it is certainly not the worst weapon in Scout's primary slot. That award goes to the backscatter. which funnily enough is the next gun I will be talking about. Now the backscatter is a weapon that I have grown to hate upon making this video. In fact, I would happily label it Scout's worst primary. Its whole gimmick is making the Scout a worse version of Spy, with you dealing mini crits when you hit a target's back. For this gimmick, you have a 20% bullet spread increase and a smaller clip size. I cannot emphasize how much this weapon sucks, and if you want to use it, just please do your entire team a favor and switch to Spy, because at least Spy will guarantee you and the team the kill. In fact, I have a clip that perfectly shows exactly what I mean. As you can see in this clip, I see the fact that the enemy heavy has his back towards me, so I see this as a chance to run at him and try and take him down. The thing is, because he can survive my first shot, he gets the chance to turn around and kill me instead. Now you see, this wouldn't have happened if I was just playing Spy, which any of you that use this weapon should do, especially since, at least like I said, Spy guarantees the kill. The Babyface's blaster will be the final primary weapon I will be talking about in this video. This is another one of Scout's meter weapons, but unlike the soda popper, the meter provides a passive buff of increased speed, with the only downside of this weapon being a smaller clip size. You charge this weapon the same way you would the soda popper, but you can lose the boost juice by double jumping or taking damage, which I personally don't mind, as you can fill the meter up just as quickly as you can lose it. When the boost is empty, you walk slower as well, but that's fine considering how easy it is to fill up the bar. Now personally, my experience with this weapon has been amazing, and I'm gonna be honest, this gun is my favourite Scout primary out of them all, just because of how fun it is to be running at Mach 7 speed, whilst the enemy heavy can't even keep track of you. Now that I've gone through all the primaries, I think it's time to talk about Scout's secondaries, starting us off with the pistol. Now the stock pistol for a stock weapon is pretty alright. It's good at dealing that finishing blow if you can't afford waiting for your shotgun to reload, and dishing out a quick burst of damage. With Scout's secondaries, the pistols are my go-to choice, but the thing is, with stock, it gets outclassed by most of the other secondaries, especially the Pretty Boy's pocket pistol. Which, now that I think about it, the Pretty Boy's pocket pistol is just a definitive upgrade to stock. It's my go-to Scout primary, with the only downside being a smaller clip size, bringing you from 12 bullets to 9. You get the upsides of an increased fire rate and the ability to heal yourself for 3 health per hit. I enjoyed pairing this secondary with a more aggressive playstyle, as the healing provided from dealing damage is a great way for me to sustain myself while I'm playing more aggressively and staying away from my team. I honestly love the more aggressive playstyle this weapon supports, and the fact that you can heal yourself while engaging in combat, making it a great gimmick for Scout, especially with his squishy health pool. The Winger, from my experience, is more of a utility than it is a weapon. Just like the Pretty Boy's pocket pistol, this weapon's only downside is a smaller clip size, for the upside of a higher jump height while the gun is active, and an increase to damage. The increase to jump height is extremely fun to mess around with, especially when you pair it with the hype from the soda popper. Honestly, I had fun basically flying past the enemy team with this weapon, especially with the hype meter active, which could get me so far across the map without anyone noticing. Overall, this weapon is really fun to pair with things such as the Force of Nature and the soda popper, because those two primary weapons are more movement based, just like this secondary. And it is just really fun to mess around with and fly across the map with it. Now me personally, I have never used Mad Milk outside of Man vs Machine, but when I did to get some footage for this video, I loved it. This non-milk substance is a great support secondary for both you and your team. The healing it provides is amazing for quite literally every class, as it heals 60% of the damage you deal. I mean, look at this clip. If I didn't coat that heavy in the milk, I wouldn't have lived to tell the tale. The healing provided by the milk is insane, and I cannot understate how good it is as a support secondary. It can also extinguish you and your teammates alongside exposing cloaked spies. And similar to the Pretty Boy's pocket pistol, it is great for self-sustain, so if you're doing a more independent scout, I'd heavily suggest you use this unlock. Or, if you want to be helpful for your team and play a more supportive role, I would also suggest you use this unlock. Now to me, the flying guillotine is nothing special. I mean, it's fun to throw into crowds and it worked great with the 2 meter primaries due to the bleed it causes, but that's really all I have to say about it. Other than all that, it's just a cleaver that you throw at people, and there's nothing much more to it. I don't know where I'm going with this segment of the video, so let's move on to the bonk. The bonk, in my opinion, is very underwhelming. The 8 seconds of invincibility in of itself is extremely useful, especially with Scout's squishy health pool. My only issue with it is the fact that when you're invincible, you aren't immune to knockback, which is weird considering the bonk canonically makes Scout so fast, he dodges every bullet. And the only reason I have this complaint is because every time I use this bonk, I will just get pinned into a corner by a sentry or some heavy and shot at until I die. The other feature of the bonk is that you slow down based on how much damage you would have taken. The thing is, this slowdown effect can be completely nullified by just spamming A and D. Overall, I personally just don't like this unlock. I feel like the other secondaries outclass it in so many different ways. I also have the same opinion when it comes to the Criticola, as I just think that it is outperformed by all of the other secondaries in Scout's arsenal. And that will conclude the secondaries, which means it's time to move on to the final segment of this video, the melee weapons, starting off with the stock bat. Now when it comes to the stock melee weapons, they most likely will get outperformed by every single one of their unlocks, as every melee weapon at least has one thing special about it, whilst the stock has nothing. So with that all being said, I think it would be best if we just move straight into the unlocks, and overall, so you know my opinion on this weapon, it's mediocre at best, especially since, like I said, not every, but most unlocks completely outclass it. The Atomizer is probably Scout's most popular bat, and I can see why. It is another one of Scout's unlocks that is used more as a utility rather than an actual weapon, due to the main draw to this weapon being its triple jump. It also has the gimmick of giving the player mini crits when you hit somebody while you are mid-air, but the thing is with this gimmick is you will barely get any use out of it unless you want to cosplay as a fish. Now me personally, I like using this weapon for its double jump and only its double jump, like every other player that uses it. Its double jump opens up maps in so many different ways and pairs greatly with things like the force of nature. I would say it pairs greatly with the soda popper, but the triple jump doesn't stack with the hype meter, which I'm still pretty annoyed about. Now the Boston Basher is a funny case for me, as I rarely use it, and the only times I have used it is to build Uber with my team's medic. The main reason I don't really use this bat is because I just don't like the whole gimmick of when you miss a melee swing, you hit yourself and cause yourself to bleed. Now personally, I just don't like this gimmick, because why would you want to give your enemy the upper hand in a fight if you miss a hit when you could just shoot them with your shotgun and guarantee that hit anyway? And also there's another melee unlock that just does the whole bleed gimmick way better. That unlock being the Rap Assassin. Now the Rap Assassin is my go-to melee, with the bauble it fires not only causing the person you hit to bleed, making it a great annoyance to the enemy, but the bauble will deal a guaranteed crit if it's been in the air for longer than a second, which will make it deal 45 impact damage. Pair that with the bleed, that's 85 damage in total from a little Christmas ornament. But that's factoring in the fact that there are no health packs around and the enemy is completely clueless on what to do while they are bleeding out. Similar to the cleaver, this weapon pairs really well with the soda popper and the babyface's blaster, due to the bleed pairing very well with any kind of hype meters. Overall, I love this weapon and it's one of my favourites to use. I also find it really satisfying to just launch the bauble into the distant horizon and hear that. Legend has it the Sandman used to stun Ubered players. Now it gets outclassed by a cardboard tube and a Christmas ornament. The Sandman, just like the Rap Assassin, has an alt fire that launches a ball at the enemies, but instead of making the enemies bleed, the ball does nothing. Only kidding, it slows the enemies down, but it might as well do nothing because you can nullify that slowdown effect similar to how you would the bonk. Valve also made it so that the player loses 15 total max health with this weapon equipped, which I don't get why they made this change considering the weapon is already bad enough from all the nerfs they gave it. They just thought of spitting on the grave of this weapon and then pissing on it as well. Now me personally, when I used this weapon to get footage for the video, I had no fun. The only thing that I enjoyed from this weapon was this specific clip, because The way the engineer reacted was funny, I guess. I don't know, it's just a bad weapon overall and I don't like it. The candy cane is an incredibly underrated weapon, and I will die on the hill that it is up there with Scout's top 3 melee weapons. If you didn't already know, the upside to this weapon is that on kill, enemies will drop a small health pack. For this upside, you have the downside of being more vulnerable to 2 out of the 7 classes, which in my opinion is insanely powerful, considering as a scout you should be avoiding these 2 classes anyway. The whole idea of this weapon giving you a small health pack upon killing an enemy is great, especially if you're in a crowd setting, because if you're fighting a large swarm of enemies and you kill one of them, you can pick up that health pack to heal yourself, so then you can at least survive a little longer to deal even more damage or kill the rest of them. Overall, I personally love this weapon and I'm going to be using it way more than I have. Now, like the Mad Milk, I have never used this weapon outside of Man vs Machine, but unlike the Mad Milk, I had absolutely no fun using it. Using this weapon is like trying to kill an elephant with a butter knife. Its gimmick is that whoever you hit is marked for death, and you will deal crits when you are supposed to deal mini crits, which would be a great gimmick if it wasn't for the 75% damage decrease, making you have a base damage of 9 and a crit damage of 27, which is less than what stock would do normally. And yes, you could mark someone for death and follow it up with a meat shot, but then what's the point when you could just hit them with 2 meat shots and kill them quicker than you would with the mini crit? Overall, this weapon isn't the best, and in my opinion it's just a waste of a melee slot, especially when you could have something like the Atomizer or the Rap Assassin in its place. Yes, I know that the fish is a reskin of stock, but I'm still giving it a segment in the video. The fact that this weapon announces to the whole server that somebody has been hit by a fish is incredibly funny, and it's even funnier when you see that somebody has just been killed by a fish. And that is all I have to say about this weapon. I just love seeing the fact that somebody has just been absolutely slaughtered by a fish. I have never used the Sun on a Stick until making this video, and I will never use the Sun on a Stick after making this video. While active, this weapon gives you a 25% resistance to fire damage, with the downside of a damage decrease. The main gimmick of this weapon is the fact that you deal crits on a burning target, which I think is a decent gimmick if it wasn't so situational, considering there is only one class, with a few exceptions, that have the ability to set an enemy on fire. Even when you see an enemy on fire, you don't think, oh, that would have been a great kill with the Sun on a Stick. You think, oh, look at this guy, he's on fire. Blam! He's dead now. Overall, this weapon is just hot garbage, pun intended, and I genuinely don't get why anybody would use it, especially considering how situational it is. And that will conclude today's video. If I'm going to be honest with you, I'm probably going to make it so that my next video only focuses on one weapon, since, in my opinion, this video has been an absolute mess. But other than that, I have enjoyed making this video, and I've hoped you've enjoyed watching the video. And if you have, please do like and subscribe. I'll be putting up a community post so that you guys could vote what weapon you'd like me to review for the next video, and hopefully it will be better than this one. But until then, I hope you have a great rest of your day, evening or night, and goodbye.